The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippine National Police will conduct an investigation into the alleged violent dispersal of protesters at Liwasang Diokno in Quezon City yesterday.
President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. says he will examine carefully the proposal to impose new tax measures to pay the country's COVID-19 debt.
Outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte considered to be the next drug czar under the Marcos administration.
The Commission on Elections proclaims 55 party list groups that are entitled to at least one seat in the 19th Congress.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, May 26, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Herlene Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, the Philippine National Police will conduct an investigation into the alleged violent dispersal of anti-Marcos protesters at a Freedom Park in Quezon City yesterday. Leia Ilagan has this story.
The National Capital Region Police Office ensures maximum tolerance were employed in dispersing rallies yesterday at the Liwasang Diokno within CHR compound in Diliman, Quezon City. The NCRPO made a statement amid claims by Karapatan that at least 10 rallyists were hurt in the scuffle. Authorities said rallyists became unruly, forcing the Bureau of Fire Protection or BFP to use the water cannons.
Una, yung pambubomba, parang exaggeration kasi kung may sarili naman kaming video. Yung video ng PNP, siyempre nakapag-produce din tayo. It was just a warning at hindi naman ang water cannon nakadiretso sa kanila.
QCPD Director, Police Brigadier General Remus Medina said the demonstrator will only allowed within the vicinity of the Liwasang Diokno or Freedom Park, but they attempted to go beyond it, causing heavy traffic.
Makikita natin sa video natin is yung ginawa nilang protesta loob ng Freedom Park, okay lang. Pero the moment na natapos na sila at gusto na nilang tumawid, pupunta sa kalsada na magkakaroon ng traffic, yun po ang tinigilan ng pulis natin.
The NCRPO said they will conduct an investigation regarding the protest. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. is open in making President Rodrigo Duterte as drug czar. Meanwhile, the outgoing president asked PBBM to continue the war on drugs in his own way. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. said it will not be a problem if his predecessor, President Rodrigo Duterte, will join his administration. Marcos said he is ready to offer a post for President Duterte in order to continue the government's war against illegal drugs. The President-elect, however, clarified that this is not yet a standing offer.
No, he has not. We have not talked about it. I'm open to anyone who is able to help in the government. So matagal na kaming magkaibigan ni PRRD, nung mayor siya pa, long time ago. So I'm sure if he wants to play a part, sasabihin naman niya sa akin. I'm certainly open to all of that.
Marcos Jr. revealed that he met a number of times with outgoing President Duterte during the campaign season. He said that the outgoing president asked him to continue the war on drugs in his own way.
Yeah, the one thing that he was very assertive about was that ituloy mo yung anti-drug syndicate na sinimulan ko. Do it your own way. He really said that. Do it your own way. Palitan mo, gawin mo yung gusto, pero wag mong iiwanan yan dahil kawawa ang kabataan natin. talagang nasisira ang mga buhay nila.
Likewise, Marcos said that President Duterte asked him for understanding over the use of all government resources available to fund the monthly 500 pesos government aid to the poor families amid an abated increase of oil prices.
Tama rin naman siya. I don't think he had a choice na talagang kailangan pa rin ng tao, kawawa masyadong tao.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Finance is urging the incoming Marcos administration to impose new tax measures that will raise the country's revenue and settle debts. President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. says he will examine the proposal carefully. Rosalie Cons explains why.
I think that's an examination we really have to undertake. So whatever fiscal policy is going to be, whatever changes in fiscal policy that we are going to undertake, it will have to come, we have to examine it we have to think it through properly. So yung mga pabigla-bigla na tinataas, binababa, hindi natin magagawa yun.
President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. emphasized his first priority will be the recovery of the economy and fiscal policies will follow. This comes after Department Finance Chief Carlos Dominguez unveiled their proposed fiscal consolidation and resource mobilization plan containing more taxes to help the next administration settle the country's record-high debt.
You cannot just look at one area without trying to anticipate what the real effect will be for the entire economy. And the point I'm making is that we have to have an economic recovery plan, and the fiscal policy will follow that.
The proposal includes raising new taxes, deferring personal income tax reductions, and expanding value-added tax coverage, among others. These new tax measures aim to generate an average of at least 349 billion pesos in new revenues from 2023 to 2027. The 17th president wants to make simpler fiscal policy and provide tax relief for those who have been severely hit by the pandemic, such as the micro, small, and medium enterprises, agriculture, and transport sector. Meanwhile, Malacanang leaves the matter and other ways to mobilize resources to the economic team of the president-elect. The national government's outstanding debt hit a record high of 12.68 trillion pesos in March 2022 due to pandemic-related programs. Making our debt to GDP ratio rose to 63.5%, which is higher from the international acceptable threshold of 60%. Rosalie Cons, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, population growth in the Philippines slowed down while the poverty rate continues to increase, according to Commission on Population and Development, or POPCOM. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why live. Yes, Eileen, good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, William, good evening. The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the past 2 years contributed to the slow population growth in the country, according to Commission on Population and Development, or POPCOM. Based on POPCOM's monitoring, population in 2021 added to only 400,000, which is lower compared to the 1.5 to 1.6 million recorded in 2019 and 900,000 recorded in 2020. POPCOM adds the country's fertility rate is also down from 2.7 to 1.8. POPCOM Undersecretary Juan Antonio Perez III said couples delayed having children due to the economic strain faced during the pandemic.
Despite the fact na COVID caused so much hardship, maraming excess mortality, our demographic picture improved. We now have smaller family sizes. Maraming Pilipino nag-family planning during COVID.
Despite the low population growth, POPCOM also recorded an increase in the country's poverty rate compared to the previous years. Based on the data of POPCOM, last 2018, 4 million families are considered poor, and it increased to 4.6 million in 2021. According to Yusek Perez, this is equivalent to 26 million Filipinos or 23% of the total population in the Philippines. Popcom explains Filipinos earning 12,000 pesos lower or are receiving salary lower than the minimum wage in their area are considered living below the poverty line. The official reiterates that amid the demographic transition and the increase of poverty rate, each worker should receive a living wage. This could also contribute to a boost in the country's economy.
That's why we're proposing to the Popcom board na pag-isipan yung pagkaroon ng matatawag nating living wage or a cost of living, a wage that addresses the cost of living. So we hope ma-take up yan sa coming administration.
And that is the latest news. Back to you, William.
Yes, Eileen, thank you very much. And that is Eileen Cerudo reporting live. Senators will no longer be allowed to attend plenary sessions virtually days before they adjourn. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
With only less than a week before the third regular session of the current Congress adjourns, senators will have to attend plenary sessions physically beginning Monday. This is the latest directive of Senate President Vicente Soto III, as he fears that the next Congress might just adopt the same setup. The Senate leader also noted the easing of COVID-19 restrictions in the country.
So we have to show the people that we are working face-to-face na eh. Bakit yung mga senador hindi face-to-face? Di ba? Baka sabihin nilang gano'n.
Kung yung anak ko nag-face-to-face na, siguro pwede na din tayo mag-face-to-face.
It was in May 2020, at the height of the pandemic, when the Senate passed a resolution allowing teleconferencing and plenary sessions and committee hearings due to force majeure or emergencies. Meanwhile, several measures have been passed on third and final reading. This includes Senate Bill 2501, seeking to penalize willful and indiscriminate discharge of firearms, amending the revised penal code. Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who sponsored the bill, thanked his colleagues for their support in passing the measure.
We have heard too many stories of mothers, fathers, and children expressing their sorrows and weeping for their family members who became victims of indiscriminate use of firearms. Sawa na tayo sa mga balitang ganito.
Its counterpart measure in the House of Representatives was passed last year. De La Rosa's camp says it will be determined on Monday if the bill will undergo the bicameral conference committee or the House will adopt the Senate's version. The Congress will adjourn on June 3 and will go back for the opening of the 19th Congress on July 25. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. The Department of Health is looking into possible ways to secure vaccines that can cure or help prevent the transmission of monkeypox in the country. Aiko Miguel reports why.
Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III is considering to procure smallpox vaccines that will be also used against monkeypox. This is because there are no available vaccines in the Philippines.
At this moment in time, there's no local FDA-registered vaccine in our country.
Secretary Duque also directed the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM, to look for sources of smallpox vaccines. This is one of the preparations of the DOH to prevent monkeypox transmission, although the World Health Organization has not yet ordered a mass vaccination against monkeypox. Dr. Beverly Ho, Director 4 of DOH Health Promotion Bureau and Disease Prevention and Control Bureau, said they are also looking for ways to secure vaccines against monkeypox.
However, we do want to emphasize that what we are working on are along two fronts. First, the fastest would be to secure bilateral or donations from other countries who might be able to provide us with these vaccines. If we are going to be procuring these on our own, we have a process to follow. No? So first, it has to go through our FDA, and then since we are going to be spending money on it, then it will go through the HTAC or Health Technology Assessment Council.
Meanwhile, Dr. Marisa Alejandria explained There's a difference between a monkeypox, chickenpox, and measles. Dr. Alejandria said rash development of monkeypox is low compared to chickenpox and measles. Rash distribution of monkeypox is more intense on face, present on palms and soles. Its appearance is lesions are often in one stage of development. Dr. Alejandria also said monkeypox has a distinguished symptom, which is the appearance of lymph nodes on the neck.
So monkeypox is the disease, no, that's caused by the virus, orthopox virus, no. Kamag-anak siya ng smallpox, no. Okay. So it's a viral zoonotic disease, meaning ibig sabihin nito, the virus is transmitted from animals to people. Yung enlarged lymph nodes, tapos mas sa face, sa muka, and then sa palad, no, and talampakan. While yung chickenpox more on the body.
Everyone is advised to be extra cautious. Wear tight-fitting masks, observe social distancing, and practice good hand hygiene. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine Health Insurance Corporation reaffirms the implementation of the contribution hike to its members starting June. PhilHealth stresses the need to carry out the contribution hike after being suspended last year. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
Additional funds from the rate increase of the monthly contribution for the state healthcare insurance ensures expansion of existing benefits. It will also provide more benefits that PhilHealth deems necessary for Filipinos. The Philippine Health Insurance Corporation explains this as they push to implement the new contribution rate after temporarily suspending it last year due to pandemic.
Marami tayong nakalinya na benefit development, mga bagong benefits na na-introduce natin para makatulong sa ating mga kababayan at saka pag-expand ng mga existing natin benefits.
Today, PhilHealth spokesperson Dr. Shirley Domingo reaffirms the implementation of universal healthcare law starting June. This means that from 3%, the contribution rate will now be 4%. However, the increase that was not applied in the previous months of the current year will also be adjusted in the following months.
The amount of 4% will start January. Ngayon, yung January to May na differential, kasi nakapagbayad naman sila ng 3% na eh. So 1% na lang ang differential can be paid up to December.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad. In an attempt to strengthen his forces, Russian lawmakers are voting to remove the age limit for voluntary military contracts. Paul Gatchalian will tell us the details live. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Mariel, according to Russia's parliament website, the bill was passed as President Vladimir Putin plans to increase his military strength, continuing the battle in Donbass, Ukraine's industrial region. Desired skills can now be occupied by older recruits as they have been granted the ability to use precision weapons or take on roles in the engineering or medical fields. President Putin has also called for the faster processing of Russian citizenship for those living in southern Ukraine, Kherson and Zaporizhia, now under his control. After hearing the news in his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded to Russia's new recruitment, calling on for more military support to end the war.
Ще потрібен час, щоб відбити у них це бажання. Ще потрібна допомога партнерів, передусім зброєю для України. Повна допомога, без виключень, без обмежень. Достатньо, щоб перемогти. Ось про що говорять ті, хто дійсно цінує людей.
Meanwhile, after 3 months since the beginning of the invasion, President Putin visited injured soldiers in Moscow's Mandrake Central Military Clinical Hospital. Mariel?
Thank you, Paul Gatchalian, for that live report. The World Bank announced the multi-billion-dollar pandemic fund set up by G20 nations to help developing countries better prepare for pandemics is proceeding quickly. Nerissa Dando tells us why live. Yes, Nerissa, go ahead.
Good evening, Marielle. A G20 pandemic fund plows ahead after an independent panel warned of future health threats that the world is not ready for. The panel pointed out that the world is no better placed to fight pandemics than it was when the COVID-19 hit. A spokesperson from the World Bank said the multi-billion-dollar pandemic fund could be operational within months to set up the facility. But so far, the fund has raised just under $1 billion from the United States, the European Union, Germany, and the private donors. However, the annual fund gap for pandemic preparedness is estimated to be $1 billion, according to the World Bank and the World Health Organization. The bank had already released a white paper for consultation on how it might work. It's still consulting with partners on what it would spend money on. Marielle?
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, for that live report. Australia's chief immunization group has expanded the eligibility for a fourth COVID-19 dose ahead of the winter season. Ia De Vera will tell us why live. Yes, Ia, good evening.
Good evening, Marielle. Following the latest meeting of the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, the expanded advice will now allow more than 1.5 million additional Australians to receive the fourth dose or second COVID booster from May 30. Interim Health Minister Katie Gallagher said that expanding the criteria will ensure that people at greatest risk of severe infection are protected ahead of the winter and flu season. The fourth dose was previously only available to those aged 65 and over, those in aged or disability care, those who are severely immunocompromised, or indigenous people aged over 50. People with health conditions or a disability are now eligible for the second booster, but it has not yet been recommended for the whole population. Senator Gallagher encourages those who haven't had their booster or may be eligible for the fourth dose to make arrangements, and advised that there will be no supply issues for the booster shots going forward. Marielle?
Thank you, Ia De Vera, reporting live. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention advises patients with a recurrence of COVID-19 symptoms after completing the treatment of the antiviral pill Paxlovid should isolate for another 5 days and wear a mask for 10 days. Anecdotal reports and surveys on social media showed 47% of individuals who took Paxlovid went through a COVID-19 rebound effect, but Pfizer suggests the experience is rare. The CDC said in its advisory that case reports suggest that recurrence results in mild symptoms, and there have been no reports of severe disease so far. The agency still continues to recommend the oral antiviral drug as a treatment, despite the possibility of recurrences. Due to health damages that elderly people in the United States are suffering with because of isolation or living alone, the state of New York plans to give out robot companions to help them get through their daily lives. Joselito Liquido will give us the details live. Yes, Joselito, good evening.
Good evening, Marielle. To help address the growing problem of social isolation among the elderly, the state of New York will distribute robot companions to the homes of more than 800 older adults. According to Greg Olson, director of New York State Office for the Aging, the robots could help tackle this growing health problem by encouraging independence among older adults living alone and providing companionship. Instead of helping on physical tasks, the robot's main purpose is to be a more proactive versions of digital assistants similar to Siri or Alexa. Some of its main functions are engaging users in small talk, helping contact loved ones, and keeping track of health goals like exercise and medication. The robots, named LAQ and built by Israeli firm Intuition Robotics, consists of two parts attached to a single base and is deliberately designed to appear more robotic than humanoid in order to better focus the attention on its conversational abilities. Marielle?
Joselito, is there any data available on how many elderly Americans are living alone in the United States?
Yes, Marielle, an estimated 14 million Americans over the age of 65 currently live alone, and this figure is projected to increase over the next decade as the boomer generation ages. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Joselito Liquido reporting live. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Maria Latoza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC on Bank, proclaimed the winning parlous organizations today after several days of delay. Meanwhile, the poll body expressed gratitude to those who contributed to the success of the recently concluded polls. Dante Amento has the story.
The COMELEC and Bank, sitting as the National Board of Canvassers, proclaimed this afternoon 55 party list groups which represent different marginalized and underrepresented sectors. Anti-Crime and Terrorism Community Involvement and Support Inc. or ACT-CIS is on the top with 2,111,091 votes and will have 3 seats in the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, one rider party list, Tingog, 4Ps, Ako Bicol, and Sagip got 2 seats each. Other groups such as Uswag Ilonggo, Sibak, Senior Citizens Party List, Duterte Youth, Agimat, Bagong Henerasyon, Kabataan, Gabriela will have 1 seat each. New lawmakers are sure to pass laws that would uphold the interest of the sectors they represent.
Well, of course, nandito po tayo para lahat naman ng mga party list dito ay nandito po para tumulong sa ating mga kababayan. And lagi naman po natin sinasabi sa ating kampanya is kailangan po natin talaga maibalik ang lahat ng mga trabaho na nawala. And alam naman natin yung usapin po minimum wage, yan po isa sa mga ipaglalaban ng Agimat party list dito po sa mababang kapulungan ng Kongreso.
Matagal ng panahon, nakikita po natin na ang mga motorista ay nabibiktima ng pang-abuso at mga maling pagpapatupad ng batas. Kaya po pangunahing isusulong namin ng One Rider Party List ang mga batas na magpoprotekta sa mga motorista.
Magsasaka Party List, on the other hand, were not among those who were proclaimed due to an existing intra-dispute.
Dalawa po kasi kaming faksyon. Yung punguna po naming Magsasaka Party List, kami po yung original at nagkaroon po ng ilang suliranin sa loob ng partido.
Nominees of party list organizations will serve for 3 years starting on June 30, 2022. Meanwhile, COMELEC Chairman Saidamin Pangarungan has expressed gratitude to the voters who exercised their right to suffrage amid challenges such as the current COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, Pangarungan thanked all those who participated for the successful conduct of the elections.
This is an election that has surpassed our expectations in terms of peacefulness, speed, and turnout, to name a few. Your readiness in heeding the call of duty is no less than remarkable. I am in complete awe of what you have sacrificed and contributed to ensure that a new set of leaders will be peacefully, cleanly, freely, and safely elected.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of James, chapter 5, verse 16, it says, "Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much." reasons behind the news, May 26, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Herlene Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.